Okay, so welcome to our presentation for the Authortube Writing Conference. And we're going to be talking about more than words, using low content books to broaden your reach and boost book sales. I'm Keith Wheeler,
And I'm Nuria Corby.
and so we're gonna be doing this session. At the end, there will be a live Q&A, so make sure that you stick around for that. It's gonna be a live Q&A down in the chat. We'll be here. This is a premiere, so make sure that you again stick around. And if you have questions, you can put them in throughout watching this, and we will answer them in the comments. So, what are low content books? Low content books are basically books that aren't the typical written content. Things like journals, puzzle books, activity books, coloring books, basically things that don't have a lot of writing in them are what people call low content books,
That's right. And even notebooks are low
right?
content books. It can be as simple as that. And
Go
the
ahead.
other thing that I've noticed is that there's not a lot of love for low content books among the writers community. So I thought about that, and I think we probably both agree on why that is, why people seem to hate low content books. Hate is a strong
Yeah,
word, but
it
I have
is.
seen people that are really against them.
They are.
What are your views on that, Keith?
Well, from my perspective, most authors that have negative opinions about low content books probably envision some lazy content creator throwing together cheap, poorly designed line journals and throwing them up on Amazon, pricing them dirt cheap, and then rinse and repeat a couple hundred times or even more. And the truth is that perspective is not without merit. You know, there are people, just like with any business, there are bad actors that kind of ruin it for the class, if you will.
Yeah.
But that said, there are ways to create good quality low content books, books that customers will want and find value in, and books that can help grow your brand instead of watering it down.
Absolutely. I think it's like that with anything. Any
Right.
business can produce good products or bad products, depending on how much work and love they put into it. I've been publishing low content books. This is how I started since 2019. And I made the mistakes that a lot of people make at the beginning. And I
Hmm.
think we all have done that in one way or another.
Right.
But in time, you really learn and you appreciate a quality book. And low content books can be high quality. There are low content books produced by big publishers, and
Exactly.
they're still very popular, and people buy them and are happy with them. So there's no reason why a low content book should mean a low quality book. I think a
Exactly.
low content book, when it's done well and when it's done with a lot of thought behind it and it's formatted correctly, I think it can be a really good addition to any other book, to any other fiction or non-fiction book.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of people have this mentality where it's either or. You know,
Yeah.
either you write written content, you know, you write novels or you know or whatever short stories, or you create low content books. And the truth is it doesn't have to be an either or. And I have seen so much success with kind of merging the two. And so, you know, that's kind of the whole point of this presentation is that it's not either or. You don't have to stop writing what you love to write to create low content books, but you can use low content books to help you sell more books and help grow your business, get a broader reach.
Absolutely. And I think we can see some of the benefits of low content books as well. What would you say is one of your main reasons for creating a low content book alongside your fiction or non-fiction book?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really comes down to three main reasons. One is you can use it to feed your hungry fans. You know, if you already have fans that are reading your books, and chances are, even if you're just starting out, you're going to have fans that enjoy your book, unless you only get one or two star reviews. So as long as you've written good quality content, then you're going to get fans. Well, creating low content books that are related to that niche will give those fans something else of yours to consume.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. The second one, it allows you to put out books faster. So if you put out a book every quarter, well, then you can create low content books in the interim and publish them. And Amazon really likes the more frequently you publish. And so if you publish a written content and then a related low content book and then a written content, again, that's one added thing in there, and you're publishing more frequently, which again, Amazon loves. And then the third thing is it helps new customers find your content because they cross promote each other. Chances are most people that write are in a competitive niche, whether it's nonfiction, whether it's fiction, military science fiction, mystery, romance, it doesn't matter. It's competitive. And so what is less competitive is, let's say, a puzzle book that is in relation to a romance. So that's going to be a lot less competitive. So people who love romance will still be looking in the romance, section of Amazon, but they might find this puzzle book that you've done and find out about you. And within that puzzle book, I would suggest doing it at the beginning as well as at the end. You list your written content that's related again to that puzzle book. And again, I'm saying puzzle book, but it could be anything. It could be a checklist. It can be a journal. It can be a workbook. It doesn't matter. As long as it's related, you can use that to help cross promote. So people who might not have found you because, for whatever reason, keyword research, just being competitive, your books are listed on page 2 or 3 when they search, certain keywords up. They can still find this content and find out your written content from it. So again, you're broadening your audience. People who wouldn't even have seen you before or found your books find you this way, and then it leads in to finding your written content.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 ways that I have found that creating low content books can help authors, can help people who write, and again, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
Yeah. And I think another, what is the thing that I've done, for example, is I've written a nonfiction book, and I wanted to reinforce the message in that book. So, for example, I wrote the Home Boss Toolkit. I don't know if you can see it there, which is all about branding for publishers, for self-publishers. And it's full of tips on how to build a brand and how to promote your books. But I wanted something that reinforced the message. And then I thought, why don't I publish a companion workbook with that, where I can really go into detail with the exercises? And then I brought out the Home Boss Toolkit companion workbook. And it's basically just a workbook that reinforces the message of the original book. I thought that was an important thing to do, to explain this book in further detail and to make it more hands-on, really, than just reading a book. And I did the same thing also with another nonfiction book, The Positivity Switch, which is all about positive thinking. And I created a companion journal for it, which is a journal. So it's all about journaling, but it's based on the Positivity Switch. And it has exercises that are based on the points that are raised in the Positivity Switch. So in my case, I've used it to reinforce the message from my main book so that people can really immerse themselves. And I've noticed that a lot of people have bought the Switch Your Light On journal before they even bought the Positivity Switch, and then they sort of found out about the Positivity Switch that way. So for me, it's been really successful, and the way I've done that is just simply by having a page at the end that tells people about the Positivity Switch. So you're cross-referencing and cross-promoting your books as well at the same time. And I think that's a good reason as any to create a low content book for your book.
Yeah, and one thing I absolutely love about specifically the Positivity Switch one is you didn't use the exact same title for the low content. It's not the Positivity Switch, the workbook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's another great way that people can find you. Like you said, they find that first because it's got a title, it's still related to it, but it's a title in and of itself. And
Mm,
so it's definitely, a way to again cross promote each other on the inside and even with the title, but you don't have to know one to know the other,
absolutely.
and to be able to use the other. So yeah, those
Yeah.
again are just great ideas. And at the end of the day, if you're putting out more content, you have more potential of selling more books. So, like I said earlier that Amazon likes it when you publish more, but the more products you have out there, then the more chances of getting sales. And so what writer doesn't want to get more sales? What publisher doesn't want to get more sales?
Yeah.
And so, and of course, if you're doing news, email lists and all that other stuff, that just adds to it. The bigger your audience, the more people that you can reach and really change their lives, whether it's through your writing or through your low content books.
Mm, absolutely. And I think, people are probably wondering, well, I write romance. It's easy for maybe nonfiction. It's definitely easier, I think, for
Right.
nonfiction. What can they write? But we'll see some examples in a little bit. But I think that in your case, Keith, you're a puzzle book creator and you're
Yeah.
quite well known for that as well. And what kind of books could you create puzzles for, do you think? For what kind of non-fiction or fiction books could you create puzzles for?
Well, I mean, I've got actually have my book right behind you,
Yeah.
making money self-publishing puzzle books, and I could do again that's somewhat nonfiction, so I could do
Mm.
a workbook to go along with it or whatever. But puzzle books in particular, you know, for some reason, workbooks, at least for me, feel like homework. You know, puzzles feel like a game, and so
Yeah.
that's why I like puzzles and puzzle books. Also, there's different levels of complexity for different customers, and so depending on your niche or what your content is really about, you can create a puzzle book that is for if it's for kids, you make it less complex. If it's for more intellectual, then you make it more complex. Also, you can change based on your niche the variety of puzzles that are in there, whether it's a variety book or just a different type of book. So, if the niche is more word based, it's if it's nonfiction and it's for librarians or whatever, but also just readers. If you're writing mystery novels or whatever, and obviously they love words, so you can do a word-based puzzle. But if you have maybe it's a mystery novel that you've got, and I say novel, but obviously short books are fine as well, short stories. But if it's a mystery, then maybe something number related, because that's more trying to figure this out and clues and things like that. Then you could do something that's puzzles that are more number based, and there are way more number puzzles than just Sudoku that everybody thinks about. There's so many different things. My favorite one to talk about is Hashiwaka Keros, but yeah, there's so many different puzzle types that you can do, and the variety can change based on the type of books that you create.
Mm.
And my favorite thing about puzzle books in particular is low content books. We didn't really cover this, but they're what we call consumables. You use them up and then you're done with it. With most low content books, if you like it, the switch your light. You can if you like it, you can go out and buy this exact same book and do it again. But with puzzle books, for example, if you go in and you buy volume one of whatever puzzle book and you've done those puzzles, you're not going to go back out and buy volume one again because you've already done them. You know the answers. So you're going to buy volume two. And so puzzle books are one of the few low content books that are really sell well as a series, because like I said, they like volume one, then they get volume two or whatever. And so those are just four of many reasons why I like puzzle books in general, but specifically for writers and why they work so well as companion products to your particular book, whatever niche you're writing in.
That's right. And I think another thing is that you can create whole brands around your books as well. I keep
Yeah.
talking about branding because that's one of the things that helped me sell more books was creating brands around my books. And you can see, for example, these two books, they're on brand where the fonts and the color schemes are concerned. And it's a whole brand that I'm building that's to do with self-help. So you can, depending on your genre, on the niche that you write in, you can create a whole brand together with your low content books, and they just help reinforce that message as well. So it's a good idea to keep it all brand consistent so that your low
Hmm.
content books fit in really well with your nonfiction or fiction books.
Many people are going to be thinking that, oh, well, this is for nonfiction authors, but fiction authors, it's not relevant. It's absolutely relevant. And again, we'll be talking shortly on ways that you can create low content books and types of low content books that you can create that will tie in with your written content, even if you write fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to quickly add to the branding side of things, you can cross promote your books, like I mentioned earlier as well.
Right.
So it really helps to market your nonfiction or fiction books because you're cross promoting your books, and you can use low content books really well for promoting on social media or on TikTok or on because they're very visual, some of them.
Right.
Whereas maybe with a novel, there's still ways, of course, to promote that, but maybe visual platforms like Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, they lend themselves really well to promote low content books just because of the visual aspect of
Right.
them. You can film yourself filling in a low content book or film somebody filling in your low content book and use that as a promotional material. That's one of the other reasons they can help with your discoverability on Amazon.
Yeah.
But as you said, I mean, a lot of people will be wondering, what kind of low content books can they create for
Right.
their fiction or nonfiction books?
So one of the simplest low content books you can create, and I've actually seen, I've seen a couple people do this, is a checklist of the books in your series or your backlist. Literally, sometimes a page is all it is. One page ebook that people can purchase, and it's a checklist of the books in your series, whether it's the order in which to do it in, if you have to read it in a certain order, or however you want to do it, then you can again put that in there. And because it's an ebook, as you make updates, then you literally just you put the upload it up to KDP, and Amazon will push that out to anybody who's already bought it. They'll get the newest version, and any new person that comes in to buy it will get the newest one. And there's a thing about checklists that people get an endorphin rush when they mark something off, but more importantly, seeing the spaces not checked off gives them a feeling of incompletion. And so there's a better chance that they're going to actually buy all the books or read all the books in that series or in your backlist. So, they can actually say that they've checked everything off. And so that to me is the simplest low content book. I mean, it's literally just you listing the list of books in your series or just your backlist. If you don't have a series, you're writing a bunch of books in the same genre, then, just a list of your books. Or maybe you do both. Maybe you write a bunch in this genre, in this niche. Some are in a series, some aren't. You can group that in the checklist. And so again, so much potential, but literally as simple as it can be a one-page checklist. I mean, how much easier can you get than that?
And that would be a short read, wouldn't it?
Yes, yes, that
Yeah.
would be yeah, that would be a Kindle short read.
Yeah, it's a genius idea. I know you mentioned that before, and I just thought I would never have come up with that idea myself, but
Yeah.
that is
Neither
quite genius.
Yeah, I honestly did not come up with that on my own. I saw it, and to be honest, I mean, one of the people I saw doing it, they were selling it for like $5.99 for a one. Actually, theirs was 2 pages because they have a pretty deep backlist, and I mean, it had a pretty good BSR bestseller rank, so they were selling.
I know it's not easy sometimes to think of ideas, and one of the easiest ways I have discovered recently to come up with ideas for your low content books is actually to ask ChatGPT. And I know a lot of people don't like AI, but I found it really helpful for coming up with ideas. And all you have to do is just ask it, what kind of low content book could I create to go with my, and then maybe the positivity switch or whatever your book is. And I wish I'd had it at the time when I wrote this. I would have come up with the idea for the journal a lot quicker. But now we can just ask ChatGPT and get some ideas. And I've written some down in the slide here. I don't know if you can see it, but
Yep.
you could, for example, for fantasy or sci-fi novels, you could have a word building journal. I've basically just asked ChatGPT to come up with ideas if I am writing fantasy novels or sci-fi novels. And it told me a notebook with prompts for fans to write their own stories set in your universe. So I think that is a pretty good idea for a low
Right.
content book. What do you think?
I do. I think it's, and again, these are pretty generic. They're niche specific, but they're pretty generic. You can absolutely, depending on how much you are okay with using AI, you can go in there and tell chat or whoever about your story. Tell them about your characters, and then it can give you even more book specific, so specific to your story, your niche, more specific low content books that you could create. So,
Yeah.
it might be something as simple as rewrite the main character. How would you write this character? Because a lot of times, especially if you're in certain niches, the readers might think that they're little mini writers themselves, and they can write a better book, or they can do just as good. And so giving them that opportunity to rewrite your plot or rewrite your main character, you can go in and tell them. You don't have to tell them your entire story. You can just give them a short version of it, the summary of it, and you can get, like I said, even more specific to your book examples that you can use.
Absolutely. And I definitely agree with your point about giving ChatGPT as much information as possible. That makes a big difference. So the more information you feed into ChatGPT, the better the results will be.
Obviously we're saying ChatGPT, but I mean it could
It
be
could be
whatever chat you want. And if you don't like
exactly.
AI, if you don't
Yeah,
want to use AI, look at it this way: we've used AI for you, so you're not using it, but you're still getting some ideas.
that's right. Yeah. And another idea it came up with was a character tracker, a logbook to follow characters, magic systems, or political factions. So that should be an interesting one. Or you could make a
Right.
themed coloring book, line art based on maps, symbols, or creatures from your story. I think you would need to get an illustrator to do that for you, but it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
And you could create an adventure journal, a travel log from the point of view of a character with space for fan entries. So I thought they were quite good ideas for
Yeah.
for low content books. Yeah.
I mean, fan fiction is definitely something that people love writing. And so something that they would normally write on Wattpad, they can write in one of your low content books.
And if you're writing mystery or thrillers, you could create a detective's notebook, a line journal styled like a private investigator's case note. So that couldn't be simpler. That's
Right.
probably one of the simplest ideas I've seen so far. And the next one is one of your specialities.
Yes, it is. Yeah, a clue tracker or work or a puzzle book. Word searches, cryptograms, logic puzzles based on the story's events. Kind of what I was saying earlier is how you can tailor the variety of puzzles to your type of book. So yeah, and yeah, those are again just based on your story.
Yeah. And the next one I thought was quite fun, a suspect log, a fun notebook where readers can jot down their own theories. I think that is one that you could create for all sorts of things.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, but I thought that was a really good idea for a mystery novel. So,
yeah, yeah,
get your
absolutely.
fans involved and get them to write with you almost.
Right.
And then if you write romance, you could create a love quote journal, a journal with romantic quotes from the book and space to write personal notes. That would be quite good, and that would sell well on Valentine's
And
Day, I
Valentine's
reckon.
Day. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And you could also have a relationship tracker, a guided journal to reflect on personal relationships inspired by your characters, and a date night planner, a themed planner to go with a rom-com or romantic drama. So, again,
Yeah.
really good ideas, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, and well, I agree. I agree. And
Mm.
just another example, and this is not from AI, this is from me, is, I like to do what if, a what if. So within there, it's again, it's a journal where people can rewrite, but what if your characters, what if they didn't meet at the airport? What if they had just passed each other by, or he had to bend down and tie his shoe when she walked by, things like that. What would have happened? Giving them the opportunity to write kind of fan fiction, but you're giving them those prompts. And I think prompt journals is a great way, especially for things like romance, that you can, or adventure, even mystery, that you can really not only get people interested in in your story to buy it later, because if they're not familiar with it, then you'll want to put some kind of little, especially if you're doing one like what if they didn't meet, you want to put some kind of prompt in there again to kind of let them know what the current situation is.
Yeah.
But as they're writing it, if they're not familiar with book, they'll be even more enticed to go read it, because okay, well, this is what I would do. I wonder what really happened.
Yeah.
And so again, just a really great way to get new readers that might not have known that you're an author. They just found this journal about romance, and or they just found this themed planner that's about date night. Oh, I didn't know that this person wrote romance. So again, you can find new readers that way.
Yeah. Also, it sounds quite fun. I fancy creating some of these
Yeah.
myself, just because they sound so much fun. So, what would you create if you write paranormal or horror books? So, you could create a dream journal inspired by the eerie themes in the story. That would be quite interesting. Or a paranormal activity log. So, a fun or fantasy record book to track supernatural events. I can see that being quite popular, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, yeah, that's a good one. And or a tarot journal for stories involving divination or mysticism. So, I think I published one of those at one point, and that was actually fairly successful at the time. So there you go. There's so many different things that you can create around your books. So do
Right.
you
And
have
and
any other
people,
ideas or?
well, I mean, no other ideas, because these
Mm,
neither one of these are really my my
yeah,
niche that I'm knowledgeable in. But you know, tarot journal, that's something that people will search for.
yeah, they do.
Paranormal activity. They might
Mm,
not put log, but paranormal activity, and it could pull up this book.
mm,
Dream journals people put in there, and then again, they just think they're buying a journal
yeah,
or an activity log or whatever, and then they open it to page one, and they see this blurb right here saying that you're an author too, and you write books related to, and they're already interested in it because they just purchased this paranormal activity log. Of course, they're going to be interested in your paranormal activity book.
yeah, exactly. So it's a win-win situation, really.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned earlier briefly that non-fiction is probably easier because
Right. Yeah.
just I found it a lot easier to think of ideas. So especially in the self-help or personal development scene, like I did with my books, you could create gratitude journals with affirmations or reflection prompts tied to your book's theme. Or you could create an action planner, a workbook to implement the steps from your book, which is what I really created. You can create challenge journals, 30-day or 90-day guided challenges about mindset or positivity or habits. I mean, I think the list is endless when it comes to books like that. There are just so many options. or a quote journal featuring powerful quotes. That is quite a good idea. So I thought ChatGPT came up with some really good ideas for nonfiction books.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah, and a similar niche is the wellness and the mindfulness and the spirituality niche, which is very similar. And I think we talked about the tarot book earlier that could fall
Hmm.
into that.
Right.
Again, this is one of those niches where you can create so many low content books. But different subject altogether is business, marketing, or productivity. So there's lots of examples for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can create a, goal planner, quarterly or monthly goal setting notebook,
Mm,
um, a content planner. It's great if you're teaching business or any kind of online visibility. And then workbook version of your book, which is probably one of the most common when it comes to nonfiction
yeah,
books that are utilizing low content books is to create the workbook version of it, where it's just fill in the blank exercises, checklists, action plans, maybe some challenges like we talked about earlier.
yeah,
And again, it's something that has been done for years. When it comes to nonfiction, many times we're reading it in the mindset that that we're learning something. So again, education. So workbook kind of goes along with that. But I do challenge people to think beyond workbooks as well, because especially in nonfiction, it's going to be that type of low content book is going to be more competitive
yeah,
than one of the other types that we've talked about.
yeah. I mean, some of these niches are competitive.
Oh, absolutely.
Low content books are competitive as well, but it just lets you spread your net wider and you catch, if you find the right niches, you really catch the right people with that. Yeah.
I've actually worked with a few lawyers that ended up, they reached out to me and hired me to help them with their written book, and then they ended up creating workbooks or something similar to that, low content books to go along with it. So again, what you were saying before about, it allows you to broaden your net, if you will. But again, without having to start a whole new brand, without having to start a whole new niche, it's still the niche that you preferably know and love since you're writing in it. Then why not create something else in there, something that's going to take you less time than your written content? So again, not to replace your written content, but something to create in tandem. As we say complementary or companion books a lot, but yeah, it's something. It doesn't have to be a companion to that necessarily to that book. It could just be to that audience that
Yeah.
you're reaching with your written content.
Absolutely, that's a really good point. Yeah, and I think these next ideas kind of fall into that parenting, education, and coaching. You could create progress trackers, so I think that would be quite good for parents. So you can track behavior, learning, or habits. You can create an activity book themed around your teaching. So it could be about any subject that you're teaching, or you could create a prompt journal with conversation starters or reflective questions for families and students. So, again, really good ideas, and they're fairly simple to create. I don't think they are difficult books to create as such.
No, I agree. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of software that will help you create most, if not all of these, whether it's a puzzle book or a planner or a journal or whatever, but you don't have to. Every type of low content book you can create yourself. So you don't have to go out and buy something, a software to help you with it. If you want to, great, but you don't have to. So don't think that it's an added expense that you have to do in order to now create, a workbook, for
Mm.
example. You can create it in MS Word. You can create it in Google Docs, Canva. I mean, anything really, anything that can create lines or tables or whatever. You can create most, if not all, of these low content books that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think thinking back, my first book that I ever published was a low content book, and it was a pocket money book for kids, like a budgeting planner for kids. And I created that on PowerPoint. So that just goes to show you don't need to spend any money to start creating low content books. And that actually sold quite well to begin with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good experience really. So yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I'll be honest. You mentioned PowerPoint, and while I do mostly written content, with the exception of puzzle books, but I do mostly written content. The very first book I created and published in back in 2016 was a was a softball journal, and I did it for my daughter because she was into softball. And the truth is that book that I created, first one I ever did, that I created 8+ years ago still sells to this day. Every month I still get sales on it. And it definitely was not the best product I ever put out. And there was times I thought about taking it down, but when I read the reviews on it and people are really enjoying it and the fact that it's still selling, I've even put out a newer, better version of it, in my opinion, and the original still outsells it every time, every month.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, every niche you can find, and like I said, it was a journal, it wasn't a puzzle book. There's an audience for whatever you're writing. There is a low content audience for that. It's and whether depending on how big it is, it will depend on the niche. But I mean, does it really matter how big it is? I mean, if you're reaching one more person that didn't know that you write books, then that's one more customer. That's one more person that you can touch with your writing and future writings.
And like I said earlier as well, and it's the fun of it as well. It's
Yeah.
just enjoyable, I find. I know a lot of people might not agree, but I found it really enjoyable to create low content books, and it really gets your creativity going because you have to embellish those books and you have to lay them out in a certain way, and you have to study the niche to really know what your customers want. So I find the whole process really creative and fun to do.
Yeah, and like you said, maybe not everybody feels that way,
Yeah.
but if you're not interested, maybe we've made you think that yeah, low content books are a good idea, but I have no desire to create a low content book. I definitely see the need in it, and how it can help me, but I have no desire to actually create one.
Yeah.
I don't like using them. I don't want to make them. I don't have the time or whatever. You can always find someone on Fiverr that can create the workbook for you or the puzzle book for you or whatever. So chances are, like I said earlier, this is a business for you. Then yeah, and it doesn't have to be expensive to get it created, and you get it done once, and it's out there, just like your written book. It's out there forever. If you're not like Nuri and I, and you don't enjoy creating the puzzle books or the other low content books, but you still see the how it can help you, how it can help your business and reach more customers that might not have found you any other way and have them buy your regular written books, then there are options beyond you having to create it yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is something that a lot of people do. A lot of people outsource the covers for starters.
Hmm.
And if you can outsource the covers, you can outsource the interiors as well. So
Yep.
I think there is a lot of scope in that. I just enjoy creating them. But if, like you said, if not everybody enjoys doing that. So, but
Right.
there's still a lot of value in creating a low content book. And we've got a few ideas on how you can use them as lead magnets as well. So
Right.
you could use them as free lead magnets, just a few pages, or printables, for example.
Yeah, and again, the key to that is just a few pages. Like if you create a 50-page workbook, or you hire somebody to create a 50-page workbook or a puzzle book or whatever, you don't have to provide all 50 pages as a lead magnet. Whether it's to join your newsletter or whatever, you can just create, just 1 or 2 pages, and that's enough to entice people to, read your content or, sign up for your newsletter, whatever you're using that lead magnet for.
And imagine you've created a puzzle book, and you'd be the best person to answer this. Would you be able to sell it on Etsy, for example, as a printable, or just pages from the puzzle book? I imagine you
Oh,
could, couldn't you?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's another income stream that you can generate, just
Right.
selling printables on Etsy. And I sell printables as in I sell artwork that people can print out and hang on their walls. And it's just another way to, another income stream apart from creating books. But you could easily combine it with your book creation by just creating the printable version of your interiors of your books. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing that you can do if you really want to really drive home the written content in your written books is maybe your main character is a likes to do puzzles or is likes to do a workbook or whatever, something, even if it's just, you know, something that's spoken about in passing, you know, they're filling out their journal or whatever. That can be what you create, the journal that they filled out, you know,
Yeah.
and maybe even, you know, if you have in your story, you know, the a copy of what they wrote, you know, you've put it in, you know, whatever italics or whatever to show that it's what they wrote. You can actually have that exact same thing at the beginning of your low content journal. So this is what she wrote, this is what he wrote, and then the rest of the book is for the user. Really, I mean, that's a deep way to tie in this low content book to your story without it really affecting your story too much. You know, you can, like I said, you don't have to mention it, but again, it's a great way to really entice people who are reading your content to learn about that journal and want to fill it out themselves, you know, or again, puzzle books or whatever.
Yeah, and I can imagine that if you've got a loyal fan base, they would love things like that. They would
Right.
really enjoy filling out this type of journals. And I think, especially if you've got a fan base, it's really worth doing because it's just something your readers would love to do.
Right. I mean, think of the books that have little spin-offs or prequels or whatever,
Yeah.
um, something similar to that, but as a low content book.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of scope in creating low content books alongside fiction or non-fiction. There's a lot of scope in creating standalone low content books, but especially if you're creating fiction, non-fiction, it's just another outlet. It's another creative outlet, and it's another maybe a possible income stream as well. It's definitely worth trying or worth thinking about the idea.
All right. So with all that, like I said at the beginning, we are here. This is a premiere. So down in the comments in the chat, if you haven't already, put your questions. Put questions that you have, whether it's about, you know, a niche that you're in or whatever. Any kind of questions you have, stick them down in the chat, and Nuri and I will be here live during this premiere, and we will answer them in the chat. If you come back after this is done, after, you know, after this live is done, this premiere, then leave them down in the comments and we will answer those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to seeing your comments and your questions because I think that I'm sure you will have a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
we're going to be here and answering them. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I
Yeah.
think this is probably something new for a lot of you, but some of you might already be familiar with low content books. So I'm hoping we've given you a lot of ideas to think about.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've covered quite a bit. And like I said, whether you want to use AI to come up with more ideas or you don't, there's still plenty of ideas in here. And hopefully if nothing else, we at least got your wheels churning.
Yeah.
If you'd like to check us out, you know, in the future, right here, we actually have a podcast that we do together called Masterminding Success Podcast, which is the channel that you're actually on right now. And then we also have our own YouTube channels for writers. My channel is Keith Wheeler Books.
And my channel is The Home Boss. And we talk about all sorts of things to do with you, especially Keith, talk about writing and puzzle books. And I talk a lot about low content books as well. So that's two places where you can go and check out what we're talking about.
Yeah. And then on the podcast, we talk about books in general, as well as just online business.
Yes, that's another one. Online business and all the things that can go wrong and that don't go wrong and what motivates us. And there's a lot of conversations about that you might find useful for your own journey in publishing.
So with that, let's continue this conversation down in the chat.
We look forward to seeing what you're going to ask us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.